Shalom. This is Abik back with another edification. I want to thank all 121 of my subscribers, especially the 121st, the 120th, the 119th, the 118th, the 117th, the 116th, and 115th. I recently viewed my channel and I see that I've gained some subscribers, so I want to thank all of my subscribers. I wish that you and your loved ones are in high health and in high spirits and safe and taking proper precautions against these agendas that are waged against us here in America, BKA enemy lines. I wanted to touch on wealth and the dollar bill. Wealth versus the dollar bill. Okay. Here have the U.S. debt clock pulled up, and the idea behind the dollar bill is what's backing up the dollar bill. Okay. I've heard individuals say, well, we are backing up the dollar bill. That's generally speaking, but to get more specific, the idea is backing up the dollar bill. Okay. Wealth must be purchased. Okay. Now, the U.S. national debt is $35 trillion. Okay. And last year, the so-called Americans cut a check for $37 trillion to satisfy the national debt. Here we are in 2024, and the Americans' debt is at $35 trillion and increasing. Debt per citizen is $101,214. Me personally, I don't owe anyone this much debt, okay? Debt per taxpayer is $268,258, okay? I do not refer to the dollar as money, okay? It is a piece of paper that is worth less than a penny, okay? So, what I call the dollar bill is a scheme, not a Ponzi scheme, not a pyramid scheme. It could be a Ponzi scheme. I would say it's more of a Ponzi scheme than a pyramid scheme. Okay, and I'm gonna get into the different schemes, the difference between a Ponzi scheme and a pyramid scheme. I would say that the U.S. dollar bill is a Ponzi scheme. Okay. If anyone is listening to this video and you are under the age of 44, then you may or may not understand what wealth is. You may not remember the indigenous people, the tribes, owning and possessing the lands before the so-called whites, which are the Edomites in the Bible, colonized these different parts of the earth, and they stole the wealth from the tribes that occupied the land before the colonials arrived. Okay, the wealth. Okay, now when you get a chance, go on USDebtClock.org and just look at the red, all of the red. Okay. The dollar bill is controlled by interest and taxes, okay? That is the idea behind the dollar bill, okay? That's the idea behind it, okay? The government borrows the money and they promise to return the money at a higher interest. So if they borrow $37 trillion, they probably got to pay back $100 trillion. Okay, U.S. total debt is over $100 trillion. Okay, total personal debt is $25 trillion. Okay. Now, the government is requiring the citizens to pay back portions of this debt that the government is borrowing to finance the American lifestyles that everyone enjoys. Okay. The stores, the partnerships with the businesses, and whatever else they use their own dollar bill to finance. Okay. The dollar bill is a Ponzi scheme. I would say it's a Ponzi scheme. Just go visit this website and just look at it. It looks like you're playing a board game or something, right? But the way they have it broken down, right? The credit card debt right here, all right? It has a pyramid right here. U.S. M2 money supply now, right? I don't even know what the M2 stands for, but I'm not sure if that's the wealth or Salakia, the dollar bills that they have on hand that they've borrowed and have not spent. I'm not sure. Okay, but they have these little symbols next to them. Okay, and you can study it and do your own research on it and find out what all these symbols mean. And we already know red means debt, green means something else, but I don't know. I'm not going to attempt to even guess what all this stuff means. But I know red means debt, and I know that the government is placing this debt on the U.S. citizens to pay back the central banks, and that's the idea behind the dollar bill. So if anyone has ever heard someone say, "Well, yeah, we back up the dollar bill," okay, well, this video is to break down the scam and the scheme behind the dollar bill, and to promote wealth and generational wealth. Trying to pass down dollar bills in the form of insurance payouts when someone dies. Look, it's not a guarantee that children will live long enough to even receive that money, and there's no guarantee that the children will even receive the money if there's some Judas or some relative or family member who's going to fuck everybody over, okay, at the end of someone's life. All right, now I'm gonna get into my slideshow. I'm gonna go over here to wealth, and I'm gonna pause it. Wealth, happiness, also prosperity and abundance of possessions or riches. Abundance of possessions, assets, ownership, minerals, all right, precious metals, okay? Wealth must be purchased because the colonials stole the wealth from the earth. They occupy the territories that produce wealth. Wealth will be your precious metals and your minerals. The dollar bill is supposed to be converted into wealth, whether purchasing homes, purchasing precious metals, purchasing minerals. By minerals, I mean like gemstones, okay? And having assets and ownership to pass down. It's like a treasure box. It's like a treasure box that you're passing down generation after generation with gold, silver, precious metals, minerals, and some dollar bills, whatever, right? Assets, possessions. If anyone remembers in historical times, the payout will come in the form of the payout for labor will come in the form of gold, silver. In the Bible, shekels were being used. Shekels were certain amounts of gold or silver, okay? Pure gold, pure silver. In 2024, we say if you come across a silver penny, the value of it has increased. It's worth a lot. It's worth a lot of dollars. It's worth a lot of dollars. Okay? Because it was pure silver. Okay? If we go over to, here goes pennies. Pennies are made of zinc that is coated with copper. Zinc coated with copper. Okay, the composition of pennies has changed over time. In 1793, the first penny, called the large cent, was made of pure copper. Okay, pure copper. Okay. In 2024, jobs are paying everybody that works for them with paper. Paper. You're getting paid with paper and copper-coated zinc. Would I rather get paid in gold, pure gold or pure silver, or copper-coated zinc and paper with some ink on it? Me personally, I'd rather get paid in precious metals and minerals. Pay me in gemstones. Give me a bag of blue topaz or alexandrite or tanzanite or emeralds or rubies, right? Pay me in rubies. You know what I'm saying? Because that's wealth, okay? The value of precious metals and minerals fluctuates, but the price of the dollar bill, or the value of the dollar bill, constantly decreases. This is why older adults will say, well, back in my day in 1920, we used to get a Snickers for 25 cents. Did the value of the Snickers go up? No, the value of the dollar bill went down. The value of the dollar bill went down. And then when you listen to the Federal Reserve talk about interest rates, they'll lower the interest rates, and then you will have U.S. citizens trying to refinance their house, their home loan, for a cheaper or a lower interest rate, so that the payback will be lower than the higher interest rate that was attached to the return. So what's backing up the dollar bill? An idea, okay? An idea of slavery, an idea of debt slavery, okay? All of the agencies in the United States, aka behind enemy lines, they're forcing the citizens to pay back debt. The definition of court is a bank. The courthouse is a bank. If you refuse to pay the fees, then they'll suspend the citizens' privileges, driving privileges. All right, suspend your driver's license. Suspend that person's driver's license, and then the person has to pay restitution fees in the form of dollar bills. So the dollar bill is a control method. I'm sure the indigenous people was looking at these federal IOUs and was like, "What is this? What is this piece of paper? Where's my gold at? What happened to the gold that you stole?" Okay. I believe it was a few years back in maybe 2018, 2019, the feds stole and confiscated all the members of the banks' gold out of their safety deposit boxes in California. Go look that up. The federal government stole all of their wealth from their secure safety deposit boxes in these institutions. Go check that out. It's almost as if buying gold and silver must be done anonymously or something like that, right? Because if the feds know that that person bought some damn gold and silver, They may track that person down and confiscate it. You still got to bury the gold like John Wick did in his basement. Like so many other films depicted, that wealth is to be buried and kept secret, right? You can't put it in banks. It's not guaranteed to be there unless you're putting it over, unless you're using some bank overseas, some Swiss bank or something like that, depending on if the laws protect your money over there. All right? So what's backing up the dollar bill? An idea of debt slavery. Okay? Having dollars in abundance is not wealth, because this country can be destroyed, which is scheduled to be destroyed biblically, prophetically, and the value of the dollar bill would be zero. The dollar bill's value dies when this country dies. But the so-called white people did not come up with the idea of the dollar bill so that the value of the idea will be more than the things that individuals want to purchase. Why does it cost so many dollar bills to purchase things? Because the value of it is low. It's just a piece of paper. You're purchasing steel, made vehicles, plastic, aluminum with the paper, thinking that the number 1, the number 5, the number 10 gives it more value. Hey, if you really do the math, then you will see the value of the item that's being purchased is based on the market value of it, right? The market value. So let's say someone wants to purchase a piece of plastic, then you go on the market, the stock market. You can go online, see how much plastic is per pound, whatever, and then look at the value of the dollar being used to purchase this piece of plastic, and watch the value. Look at the value of the paper versus the plastic. And then it'll give someone a better idea of what's the value of this piece of paper, just because the so-called white people put a number 1 and a number 5 and a number 10 on it, right? Which is just an idea. Okay, it'll give you an idea of how the so-called whites came up with their own form of currency and put a false value on it. Right? So let me go here real quick. Let me read this real quick. All right. This is the definition of money, but I want to read what this so-called white man had to say back in 1841. This is what he said about the dollar bill when it was first invented, because the dollar bill was invented in the 19th century, right? He says, "It had been justly stated by a British writer that the power to make a small piece of paper not worth 1 cent by the inscribing of a few names to be worth $1,000 was a power too high to be entrusted to the hands of mortal man. The value of the dollar coming out of being an idea out of the minds of so-called white men. It just seemed ridiculous at the time. But this is what the Israelites in the Bible refers to as the devil, deceiving the masses with an idea to enslave humanity with a false value system. A piece of paper. It has no value. The idea of it is powerful. What's backing it up is an idea. But I call it debt slavery, just to simplify it. Okay? The dollar bill represents a false value system. It represents debt slavery to me. The only thing I'm gonna do with a dollar bill is convert it into wealth. I'm gonna give an idea, a hypothetical idea surrounding this dollar bill, right? If I made $60,000 a year, me personally, I would go live in a shelter. I wouldn't live out my car. I would live in a shelter. All right? I would live out a shelter. I would live in a shelter for about 3 years. Just to give an idea and a hypothetical scenario what I would do with this dollar if I was making $60,000 a year. I don't refer to the dollar as money, so I call it a dollar. I'm gonna call it a dollar, a piece of paper. Now, during my residency in this shelter for 3 years, making $60,000 a year, what I would do is I would start a business. I will purchase a vehicle. It'll take me 2 months to purchase a $10,000 vehicle. I will purchase a vehicle, start a business, create my partnerships with my business. I will register it. I get a trademark or a service mark. I will purchase land, half an acre, $60,000. It'll take me 5 months to buy an acre of land, depending on where it's at. 2 months to purchase a $10,000 vehicle. I would set up the foundation. The foundation would be like $10,000. That'll take me about 2 months, 2.5 months to set up the foundation. The building, the labor that it would cost to build the house on the foundation, let's just say $60,000. Okay? And I'm just throwing it out there. That'll take me about 1.5 years, maybe 1.5 years to build, to purchase some land, buy a vehicle, build the house. I'll give myself 2 years just so I can set up the solar panels, And what I'm saying is, what I noticed about the dollar bill is right here. Let's say right here on this screen right here. It says, extended by the early 19th century to include paper recognized. Okay, this is the beginning of the dollar bill. The dollar bill is only like 200 years old, right? It says to include paper recognized and accepted as a substitute for coin, a substitute for precious metals. This is what I noticed about Americans. This is why I consider Americans slaves to the dollar. Slaves to the dollar, right? The dollar is being used to finance lifestyles. Vacations to paradise. Trips to the Caribbean. And then the living check to check method. Me personally, I suggest all all citizens to stop the lifestyles for about 3 to 4 years and use these dollar bills to purchase wealth in order not to work for the dollar bill for the rest of their lives. Wealth must be purchased. So that means purchasing gold, purchasing silver, purchasing minerals, purchasing precious metals and minerals, sacrificing these lifestyles for about 3 to 4 years and go purchase some wealth. Anyone who has a job and that person spends the dollar bills and has to go back to laboring for more dollar bills because that person spent all of their dollar bills, I would suggest using the dollar bill, creating a machine of a business to make the dollar bills for that person so that that person can stop laboring for the dollar bill and just manage the idea that makes the dollar bills for them. This is what the companies have decided to do. The owners of these companies, Dollar Tree, Planet Fitness, Five Below, Office Max, T-Mobile, restaurants, cable companies, cell phone companies, you name it. These owners have partnered with the U.S. government as a business. And these companies, these owners of these companies decided to allow the company to make the dollars for them. And that way, they can purchase wealth with the dollars that are being made from this machine of a business, right? Hopefully this edifies someone who doesn't understand the value of the dollar and who has lost track of what wealth is. When we watch commercials, the banks are promoting borrowing the dollar bill. They're promoting their interest rates that are low. They're showing families on these commercials, actors acting as if they're so happy to borrow money or to borrow the dollar bill. Salakia. I don't refer to the dollar as money. The U.S. government has successfully controlled humanity with the dollar bill because the idea behind the dollar bill is that you get a job, they can tax you so they can stay wealthy and retired. That's why the migrants were allowed to come over to this country, so that the government can have someone to tax. The idea of money is to tax the person that's using it, right? It's called usury. Here goes the definition of usury on the screen right now. Usury, practice of lending money at interest. See, lending the money to the borrower at an interest rate. This is usury. All right, and this is what's backing up the dollar bill. It's not just the people. It's the idea of interest and usury. That's what's backing up the dollar bill. Okay? So-called white man is the devil. Okay? The practice of lending money at interest, later at excessive rates of interest. So you paid the dollar bill back with interest. The so-called white man gives you $5. He let you borrow $5. He wants you to pay him back $10. The so-called white man tells you if you go outside and wash his car, he'll pay you $10. Then when you get done washing the car, he'll pay you $7. And you will say, I thought you was going to pay me 10. What happened to my 10? He says, oh, I had to tax you. I got to tax you. This is why when American citizens go get a job, the job says they're going to pay that person $11 an hour. And technically, you're being paid $7 an hour because of taxes. They're taxing you. You're not getting 11. If you want to take home 11, then you need to negotiate your salary or your wages. They need to be paying you $13.50 if you want to take home $11 an hour. Okay? You still have some jobs that are just giving individuals a 10-cent raise. And then they won't let that person work overtime. But if that person doesn't have 40 hours a week, they only have 25, then they can come in on their days off. But that job will cut them short and force them to clock out if they get to, if they start to hit overtime. A lot of these jobs do not want to pay overtime because they're losing money, or they're losing too much dollars to paying the people to work, right? That's what's tripping me out about the dollar, right? The dollar is all about usury, okay? So the dollar is bad to finance lifestyles off the dollar if there's not some sort of business of a machine in place to generate more dollars. So if I made $100,000 a year, then I can afford some sort of lifestyle of traveling and, spending all these dollars on, different avenues of lifestyles, right? But the thought of financing lifestyles with a dollar bill and there's no business in place that is earning more dollars than are being spent or used, that's ridiculous. And this is what forces American citizens to have to go to work till they're 85 or something like that. You got old people working these jobs because they have not purchased any wealth. Only thing they've done with this money is finance their lifestyles, right? Celebrating being black, you know what I'm saying? Celebrating paganism and birthdays, which are a sin, and pagan holidays, which are a sin, okay? And only so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians can sin because the so-called whites, which are the Edomites, were not required to keep the law of the Most High. So, this is Ecclesiastes 7:7. Surely oppression maketh the wise man mad. And the dollar bill is used to oppress. The U.S. government spends $9.4 million a year to finance Section 8 and welfare. So when so-called blacks say, well, where's the reparations? We need reparations. The reparation has been already paid in the form of programs. The U.S. government has paid reparations to so-called blacks in the form of programs. So the so-called U.S. government will spend excessive amounts of dollars to keep so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians poor. But they will not, the U.S. government will not give that type of value in the form of a check or a payout to the tribes of Israel, the blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians. So the U.S. government spends large amounts of dollars on keeping keeping people poor. Okay, that's why this is why the United States promotes the borrowing of the dollar bill, and they don't promote the wealth that can be purchased with it. They don't promote gold and silver instead of the usage of the dollar bill. Okay. It says, surely oppression maketh the wise man mad, and a gift destroyeth the heart, the mind. The heart is the mind. It's not that organ pumping oxygen and blood in the chest area of the human body. That's not the heart. So a gift destroyeth the heart, which is like the dollar bill. The dollar bill is a gift. It can be used as a gift. And the person that receives that dollar will not use it to purchase wealth. Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. Yeah, the end of the dollar bill, the end of the United States will be better than the beginning. Okay? I wish and pray for the end of America. And the patient in spirit is better than the proud in spirit. Yeah, I'm patient. I'm patiently waiting on the end of America. It says, be not hasty, be not quick in thy spirit to be angry. Right? For anger resteth in the bosom of fools. See, I'm not angry. I'm patiently awaiting the end of this so-called Edomite rulership. All right. What else did I use? The physical Bitcoin, called Caucasus Bitcoins, and created by a guy, an Edomite in Utah named Mike Caldwell, some Edomite, some so-called white, are made of brass with gold electroplating. Okay, see? If another country like China, which most of these items that are purchased in these Western stores are from, if the so-called Eastern countries won't accept the U.S. dollar bill, then that dollar bill will have to be converted into the Bitcoin so that anyone can purchase items from another country. Just look at your dishes and stuff in your pillowcases and your beds. It's all made in like China or the Philippines or Taiwan. Okay. Most things that are made in the United States are made in prison. Right? Cheap labor, right? So the Bitcoin is made out of brass with gold electroplating. Electroplating, right? Brass, though, goes back to what would you rather be paid in? Gold, silver, pure gold, pure silver, or copper? Copper-plated zinc, which are pennies. A piece of paper that's worth less than a penny with ink on it that is no older than 200 years old, that has a Ponzi scheme of an idea behind it. Let's look up that. The essential difference between the two frauds is that a Ponzi scheme generally only requires investment in something from its victims. An investment like laboring at a job, that's the investment, right? with promised returns at a later date, at a later pay date. The promise to return it to the central banks at a higher interest rate that the people are paying for when they're being taxed at these jobs, that the citizens are working, they're being taxed. The taxes are being used to pay back the loan that the United States government borrowed from the central banks. This is why you can't be paid $11 an hour, because they're taxing the $11 and you're really only being paid $7 and some change. Okay, they're taxing your labor. Okay, there's no true value, because the value of the dollar bill is based on a scheme, a scam, a Ponzi scheme. It's an idea that's backing up the dollar bill, an idea to create slavery in the form of debt. There's a debt behind the value of this dollar bill that has to be paid back, which is all a Ponzi scheme. If you go watch DuckTales, right? Scrooge McDuck was stealing these precious metals and minerals, but he was the number 2 duck in Duckburg. He came back to Duckburg with his stolen items and artifacts, and he would have to pay back the vultures. The vultures were the Jewish tribe of the Edomites, which are the Amalekites. The vultures were the central banks, so to speak. He had to pay taxes to these vultures, and those were the Jewish people, the fake Jews, right? Pyramid schemes, unlike Ponzi schemes, usually offer a victim the opportunity to make money by recruiting more people into the scam. And there used to be a scam like this going around where one person put in $50 and then 5 other individuals put in $50, and the people that put in money would take turns getting a return at a later date. But it was a scam. The more people that put in $50, the sooner each person that put in money will receive a payback. That's a pyramid scheme. Okay. What else do I have here before I'm gonna end this video? All right. This is Deuteronomy 23:19. So-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians are not permitted to perform usury on another so-called black, Latino, Native Indian. Okay? Now, this is what the law says about so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians, who are the Israelites of the Bible, are allowed to do when it comes to another race. It says, unto a stranger, which is another race, thou mayest lend upon usury. So we shall borrow $10 to a so-called white person or African or Asian person, okay, and an Arab person. We're allowed to give them $10, and upon return, we can tell them that they owe us $20, okay? It says, but unto thy brother, a so-called fellow kinsman, according to the flesh, thou shalt not lend upon usury. So we're not allowed to perform usury on our own kind, okay? That the Lord, Yahweh, thy God, may bless thee in all that thou settest thine hand to in the land whither thou goest to possess it. Okay, that is a law for the Israelites, the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians should keep. So this has been a beak. I hope I edify someone. I want to thank all 121 of my subscribers. I wish that all of my subscribers and your loved ones are in high health, high spirits, and taking the proper precautions to prevent these agendas that are waged against us behind enemy lines here in America. With that said, I want to say shalom or shalom until the next. And we got next.